Okay. Hey, I'm Alexei. I'm one of the two co-founders of Interlay, and today I'll talk about radically open BTC for the .SAM ecosystem. Now, before diving into the tech details, let's talk about the vision of Interlay. Our vision is to allow users to access any digital asset on any chain, right? The thing with crypto is, today you have to know on which chain you are, you have to know exactly which wallets to use, and it's difficult for newcomers. And our goal is to get to the point where it's like a cash machine, like an ATM. You can withdraw cash from the ATM wherever you are in the world, and you don't care how banks settle in the background. And that's what we need to achieve to reach mainstream adoption. And our first mission is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is $1 trillion market, right? It's by far the largest cryptocurrency that we have today, but it also started it all. And that's why it's even more important, because it has more than just monetary value, it has political power. Bitcoin is the asset that is being adopted as means of payment and transfers across the world. And it's the asset that people know outside of crypto. And our mission is to enable everyone to invest, to earn, and to pay with BTC directly from the wallet, but on every chain they want. And of course, this has to be trustless and decentralized, because if it's not trustless, then it's not Bitcoin anymore, and we're doing something wrong. Now, let's dive into interBTC, or short IBTC, and look at how it works. At the core, IBTC, or interBTC, is a one-to-one BTC-backed asset. I'm sure most of you are familiar with BitGo's WBTC, right? So let's assume you know this, and if you don't, I'll still give a quick update. So how Bitcoin exists on other chains today is that you deposit your BTC into one centralized custodian. For WBTC, it's BitGo, and you trust them. And BitGo is a reputable company, and that's great, but perhaps you don't want to rely on one single party, because we all know centralization is risk, and the chain is only as strong as the weakest link. So what we did is we said, well, let's allow everyone to become this custodian. Let's decentralize. Let's allow everyone to register in the system and become the party that secures the bridge. But now, in the first step, it would actually be worse, right? Instead of trusting BitGo, you would trust anyone on the internet with a Bitcoin. And that seems worse, right? They'll just run away. So what our custodians, or we call them vaults, need to do is they register with collateral. And for this, we'll go to the next slide. When a vault joins the Interlay system, it puts up collateral in a multi-collateral system. And this collateral is used as insurance. Basically, you as a vault ensure that you're not going to steal or lose the BTC. And then, as a user, I know that when I deposit BTC into the vault to mint into BTC and use on all other chains, I know that I'll always be able to get the Bitcoin back, or in the worst case scenario, I'll be reimbursed in collateral. Now, how does that work, and what does this actually mean? So as mentioned, in step 0, the vault registers with the Interlay Parachain. You lock up collateral. Currently on Kusama, we have KSM collateral, but obviously this is a multi-collateral system, and so similar like MakerDAO, you'll be able to add collateral in stablecoins, in other assets, and essentially the goal of our system is to balance this collateral against the price of BTC. What happens next is users, or you yourself as a vault, mint into BTC by putting BTC into one of the vaults. This locks up the vault's collateral and ensures that the vault has no incentive to steal. And then you're good to go. You can use interBTC in any dApp, and we already have a few integrations that are live and more that are coming. Now, when you want to go back to the Bitcoin and actually take out the Bitcoin and use it for something else, you have two potential outcomes. The good one is that you get the Bitcoin back from the vault. And if the vault returns the BTC to you, then the vault will have its collateral returned, everyone's happy, everything worked. But what happens if the vault misbehaves? If the vault cannot give you back the BTC for whatever reason, And in fact, in practice, what we look at is if the vault cannot prove to our system that it actually behaved correctly, we will liquidate the vault, and the collateral that is in the system will be used to reimburse you as a user. So in the worst case scenario, you'll be reimbursed in collateral at a premium rate, and then you can go and buy BTC and you'll face no financial damage. And this is exactly what makes this economically trustless. In practice, the liquidation part will be done by arbitrage traders. And you as a user who just wants to get Bitcoin out, you'll never notice this. It might take a bit longer, but you will get the BTC out of the system. Right, so summarizing, why is interBTC secure? It's secure because it fulfills two main properties. One, it's radically open. From day one, anyone can join the system and become a vault. There is no requirements to ask anyone. We as Interlay have zero control over that, and in fact, we want no control. It's free for all. It's also censorship resistant by design. As a vault, you cannot prevent anyone from minting and using the system. It's built into the protocol, which makes this as close to BTC as we can get. And last but not least, what we've done from the first moment on when the features were activated, for example, on the Kintsugi chain on Kusama, we have decentralized governance. So we didn't go the gradual decentralization path. We went full radical decentralization from day one. And the second important thing is that it's secured by insurance. So as we discussed, you'll get the BTC back, or you'll be reimbursed in collateral. And the last interesting aspect here is we spend a lot of our time and budget on security. The protocol that underpins interBTC and Interlay is actually called Xclaim, and it's been published back in 2018, peer-reviewed, and in fact also the code and the protocol itself has been audited by multiple companies, and we keep scheduling more audits and focusing on security to make sure, obviously, that nothing goes wrong. And last but not least, the protocol itself has also been assessed by the Bitcoin community, which, as you can imagine, is very critical about connecting to other chains. And in principle, the general feedback, also at the conference in Bitcoin Miami, where we were 2 weeks ago, is very positive, because this is indeed the only fully decentralized and trustless way how you can use BTC across different blockchains, and that's why people are generally happy with it, even within the more stronger core Bitcoin community. So we are the Interlay team, and we have two parachains. We have the Kintsugi parachain on Kusama, which is the experimental network where all the features, all the new stuff goes first, and then the Interlay parachain on Polkadot, which focuses on stability and liquidity. Now, why we use Polkadot is pretty obvious. I don't think I need to explain. It's scalable, it's robust, and for us, the most interesting part is we can use Bitcoin core libraries. We try not to write our own crypto, but we actually reuse as much of the Bitcoin core code as we can, which makes this even more robust, right? If we had to use Solidity, we would have to rewrite a lot of the signature verification and other functionality, which is risky, and we've seen with other projects that this has caused issues. So what we try to do is reuse as much of the actual core code, because this prevents potential bugs on our side. Now, as you can see from the image there, our goal is to bring BTC to Polkadot and Kusama, and because Polkadot is built to be interoperable with other chains, then we will move BTC from Polkadot to Cosmos, Ethereum, Solana, Avalanche, and so on. So basically, it starts within the .SAM ecosystem. Our mission is to become the main BTC provider here, and then allow other ecosystems to tap in and connect to Polkadot and basically use trustless Bitcoin on their applications. And the thing is, we're not competing with other dApps and DeFi protocols. We're competing with a centralized WBTC, which has a $15 billion market. So it is a David versus Goliath battle from day one, but we simply have the better products. And the reason is because what we've built under the core is an algorithmic BTC stablecoin. We've built the equivalent of DAI for BTC with physical redemption, right? You cannot go and just physically redeem DAI for the US dollar, but into BTC you can actually redeem for actual real Bitcoin. And what this gives you as a user is two main use cases. You can hold it, because what we've built is a decentralized custody network. We've allowed you to mint interBTC, and this way have your Bitcoin insured and secured by a decentralized custody network. Instead of trusting one centralized exchange, one custodian, or doing it yourself, right? Obviously, if you're technically capable, there's a lot of ways how you can secure your Bitcoin. But if you're not ready to take up that risk by yourself, or you want to have part of your assets secured by a third-party custodian, we've built this. You can mint interBTC, and you don't even have to do much with it. It's insured, and you'll get it back, or worst case, you'll be fully reimbursed. And I don't think any other custody provider offers this kind of service. But the most interesting part is once you have interBTC, you can use it to pay merchants, right? We have fast block times. It's easy to make payments, much, much easier to integrate with many dApps and other applications. You can trade in AMMs, you can lend, borrow, and you can also integrate this with more complex structured financial products like options, perpetuals, and whatever else people will come up with over the next years for DeFi. Now, in consideration of time, I'll talk about this very briefly, but obviously the question is, how does this compare to other wrapped-BTC versions? And if we look at the first two, they're marked orange because they're centralized. And instead of going through each of these properties, and the slides will be shared afterwards, I'll just use the comparison and basically talk about the USD stablecoin analogy, because I think we all know different USD stablecoins. WBTC and RMBTC are basically the equivalent of USDT and USDC. To this date, they're centralized. There have been attempts to decentralize some of these, specifically REN, but as of now, BTC is held in a single or multi-sig wallet, which means you have centralization risk. It's not easy for you to actively become a participant of the network and secure the BTC, but most importantly, you have no insurance. If something goes wrong, Bitcoin is gone and you have no guaranteed protection. TBTC tried to build a similar thing to interBTC on Ethereum. Initially, they had a restricted set and they had some trouble decentralizing. By now, they have actually managed to open up the set, but they have faced scaling issues, and one of the reasons is that they use ETH as the only collateral asset. And because they're tied to the EVM, they cannot customize as much as we can. And the issue is, if you only have one collateral asset, in this case Ethereum, you are subject to much more price fluctuations, right? What we can do is we can use the same constructs like multi-collateral DAI to make sure that our vaults don't get liquidated, that we have a true, secure, and stable collateral set which protects users and vaults against failure. And last but not least, because we're a parachain, we can build so much more without worrying about insane gas prices and limitations of the Ethereum EVM. Now, let's talk about vaults, because the vaults are the heart of the Interlay network. As a vault, you have a few responsibilities. The first one being you put up capital as insurance. The more capital you put up, the more collateral you deposit, the more BTC you can accept into your vault. Your responsibility then is to hold this BTC secure and make sure that you don't lose it, but also make sure that you don't send it to the wrong person. And then there's two very important things that you have to do. You need to return or redeem BTC to the people who want to get it back and want to leave the system, and you need to make sure that you're always over-collateralized and that you don't get liquidated. These risks are very similar to stablecoins in principle. The only thing that is new is that we have this cross-chain aspect that you actually have Bitcoin in your vault. Everything else here is pretty much the same that you have with AUSD, with MakerDAO's DAI, and so on. In return, however, what you will receive are rewards. Our system is designed in a way that 30% of the block rewards of the entire token set are paid to vaults as incentive to operate the system. And then, in addition, you have rewards that in directly the wrapped-BTC asset for mint and redeem, so you also get exposure to Bitcoin yourself. You have rewards for operating the vault, liquidating others, and basically can earn additional rewards in terms of collateral. For example, if you liquidate a vault that has stolen BTC. And what we're working on doing is adding liquid-bearing assets as collateral. So what does that mean? Imagine you lock up KSM as collateral. So you've put the KSM into our system, you're earning rewards on it, it gives you a certain APR. But imagine you could also stake that KSM, earn staking rewards on Kusama, and at the same time put it into the Interlay network as collateral and earn rewards for operating a vault. And this is exactly what you can achieve if we integrate LKSM or other liquid staking assets as collateral. And in fact, this is already happening, and we're preparing to do this over the next couple of weeks. Now, obviously, typically you wouldn't hear someone talking about the token utility. In our case, because it's a stablecoin design and the token is a core part of the system and the security of it, obviously we have to look at this as well. The main utility and use case for the Inter asset right now is governance. Because we need to make sure that there is no central point of failure, we've decentralized from day one, and essentially, as you as a holder of Inter can participate in the governance of the system. Now, what we did here is we implemented a curve-like model. For those of you who are not familiar, Curve on Ethereum has a very interesting governance model. And the same as in Interlay, what you do is you lock up and stake the governance tokens. The longer you stake them, the more voting power you have. Why? Because if you, from our perspective, want to participate in voting on the network, if you want to have a say and have impact, you should stick around to when the decision actually has impact on the entire network. Which means that the system is much more difficult to attack. You can't just buy a lot of governance tokens, vote, and then sell them. You'll have to actually stake them for a long time, up to 96 weeks on Kintsugi, or even longer in Interlay, and so you will be there and to basically live out the impacts of your actions. So we've covered governance, we've covered staking, which is part of our governance system. Let's talk about utility. Right now, the main utility is transaction fees. Next step is adding Kint as collateral for vaults, so you basically will be able to use Kint as one of the potential collateral assets to secure the BTC. And then long term, we're looking to integrate this more tightly into the product. Namely, you are basically exposed and have access to more, I would say, premium features. For example, better insurance rates, right? Right now, your BTC is insured at 110%. In the future, you can benefit from this additional premium if you have staked your token, for example. Or you have better liquidation rates. If you're an arbitrage trader and you're liquidating vault positions that are under-collateralized, by staking, you get access to better rates and basically access to better earning opportunities. And this way, you can incentivize people to actually participate, but at the same time ensure that the network is secured by its governance and that it's very difficult to attack. Because obviously, we're another chain, and that's one of the main concerns of a lot of Bitcoin holders, so the goal is to make this as secure as possible. Now, let's briefly talk about the technical requirements. As a vault, from the technical side, what you need to do is you need to make sure that you don't lose the keys of BTC and also the keys that hold and secure the collateral. And you need to be online to fulfill these redeem requests. Currently, you have 24 hours. In the future, this time might be shortened. And then you need to make sure that you keep an eye out on the collateralization rate. Only for the last one, you actually need to come online. Everything else is done automatically by the Vault client. So what you essentially do is you run our Vault client that we provide. It's open source. It's built in Rust. Of course, you can build your own. You can do it manually, although we would not recommend that. And to run this Vault client, what you currently need is a Bitcoin full node and this piece of Rust software, which is very lightweight. So the requirements in terms of hardware are quite low, specifically if you compare it to other validators. And what we're working on right now is to even further reduce these requirements. So obviously, Bitcoin is quite big to store. It's currently around 400 gigabytes. What we're working to do right now is to allow this to work with light clients, which would put this down to around 60, 70 megabytes, which is obviously much, much more efficient. Now, disclaimer right now, because this is a new system, we generally recommend that you have some DevOps experience. while we work on an easier-to-use interface that's going to come over the next couple of weeks, maybe 1 or 2 months, that will allow you to really spin up the vault with a few clicks. Our goal here is that at first, we really want to make sure that we're cautious at launch, make sure that we help everyone set up the vault, that everybody learns how the system works. And as a second step, to allow vaults as a service. Right now, you as a vault operator, you have custody over the BTC and you operate the infrastructure. And what we're doing next is we're separating this. You're going to have vaults where the software is operated by infrastructure providers, essentially like validators, right? If you participate in proof of stake, you can run your own validator or you can delegate, and you'll have the same model for vaults. You'll have infrastructure providers who run the clients, and then people who just want to provide the collateral, provide the BTC, who can do that, but still have control over the private keys, and hence know that the infrastructure provider cannot steal or lose the Bitcoin. And this, of course, will make it much, much easier for everyone to spin up a vault within a few clicks. And obviously, this is the ultimate goal, to make this scale. Now, let's take a look at where we are today. We've launched about 3 weeks ago on our Canary network on Kusama. We have around $500,000 worth of BTC minted. We have, well, this is secured by $1.3 million worth of KSM, and we currently have 33 active vaults. Now, the interesting bit is that we have very, very high demand for KBTC, and we're trying to quickly, as fast as possible, add more collateral assets to make sure we can scale the collateral, which in turn means we can scale the amount of KBTC that you can mint on Kusama. As of today, we have 2 integrations that are already live. We have KBTC on Moonriver integrated with SolarBeam, KBTC on Karura integrated with the Karura DEX. But obviously, as you can imagine, with all the Parachains going live, there's a big, big pipeline of new things that are coming. And our goal is essentially to integrate with all Parachains as soon as possible and provide them with BTC liquidity. Obviously, also to make sure that there is enough BTC liquidity for everyone and to help bootstrap this ecosystem. Now, in terms of collateral assets, because I've been asked this quite a lot in our chats and also yesterday, right now, at launch, on Kintsugi, we have KSM as collateral. Why? Because it is the most liquid asset on the Kusama network, so it's a natural choice to make sure that we can have liquidity, and also, if liquidations happen, so people can actually exit the system. Next, because we know that the KSM unlock is happening on 13th of May, I'm actually happy to say that with a 99% chance, by that time, you will have a stablecoin as collateral for KBTC. And this will be either USDT, USDC, maybe AUSD. We're still figuring out which way to put it, either KBTC as AUSD collateral or AUSD as KBTC collateral, or both ways. And afterwards, because our vaults have been asking for it, we'll propose KINT as additional collateral with higher thresholds, of course, because we need to make sure this is really, really risk-free. And then proceed to liquid staking assets and exploring other collaterals, such as potentially even a small portion of centralized WBTC, just to make sure that the risk is spread out as much as possible. But in the end, you decide, right? The community decides which collateral assets are whitelisted. You can put up a proposal, suggest which collateral assets, and then ideally provide some risk analysis. Otherwise, one of the risk teams, currently that's us, but also there's other teams that slowly start looking into this, do economic analysis, suggest the collateral ceilings, meaning how much of that collateral can be added, the thresholds in terms of how much percentage over collateralization is needed, and then you're good to go. And in principle, this supports any asset that you have in the Dotsama ecosystem. So, key dates. What we have today is we're live with Kintsugi. We have 2 integrations for KBTC. Liquidity is starting to pick up, and we're working hard to make it as easy as possible to onboard. And at the same time, we have started launch of Interlay on Polkadot. In May, June, what we're going to see is that Interlay will have fully launched on the Polkadot network and will basically enable interBTC on Polkadot. How this is going to happen, we're going to take everything that we have on Kintsugi with KBTC at that point and deploy that on Interlay. So all the features, all the functionality that you have will basically be available from day one, stable, available on Polkadot. Obviously, the goal there is then to increase the collateral thresholds and the amount of BTC locked much, much faster than on Kusama, because it will have been tested at that point. And of course, as already mentioned, our goal is now then to start simplifying vaults and making sure that even if you're not a DevOps expert, that you can still run this and within a few clicks participate in making BTC more useful. By the end of the year, our goal is then obviously to focus on more interesting collateral earning aspects, the insurance models that basically give you as a user better properties if you stake and participate actively in the system, but also make sure that KBTC, IBTC are available on all Parachains, and make the first steps to actually make this available on Cosmos and Ethereum. Now, we already have bridges to Ethereum. We have some first bridges to Cosmos. These are already usable in theory. Our goal is, however, to make use of bridges that are fully decentralized. Right? With Cosmos, make use of of the IBC protocol. With Ethereum, hopefully by that time we'll have the decentralized Polkadot Ethereum bridge ready, and we'll try to integrate with that as soon as possible. And then last but not least, and I'll stop here, interBTC 2.0, we have been working on a few cool things that I'll probably tease if I have time, and we hope to release the first things by the end of the year. Now, I think I do still have time, so let's briefly talk about what's coming next. Right now, we have a system, we have BTC that you can mint, it's insured by collateral. What's going to come next is that vaults will be able to borrow collateral assets from users. Without going into much detail, is basically what this is crowd-funded vaults. Obviously, you can trust the vault, and you can just deposit collateral, and it's like staking, right? You select the validator. If the validator fails, you're gone. We've also found a way how to make this fully trustless and basically allow the vault enter into a so-called leveraged position. This means the vault takes up more risk of liquidation. You, as a user, are secure. You will never get liquidated, but obviously the vault charges a much higher fee for that. The other, and I think very interesting aspect, and one of my personal favorites, and the things that I personally try to spend a lot of time on, is reusing collateral. Right now, you have BTC on the Bitcoin chain that sits there. You have collateral that secures this Bitcoin that sits in our Parachain. It's not being used, however. And obviously, the question that comes to mind is, well, can we not find a way to use this collateral and basically allow our vaults to become small decentralized banks? How banks work, right, is they receive dollars or other currencies from their customers, and then they lend this out, and that's how they can potentially offer you interest rates. Obviously, interest rates today are zero. But what we can allow our vaults to do is the same thing. We can allow them to reuse the collateral on our Parachain to trade within our Parachain against other collateral assets, and hence basically use this for trading activity and make profits. And on the other hand, lend out or borrow against the BTC that they have. Obviously, this comes at a risk, but by enabling this functionality, we allow our vaults to choose how much risk they want to take, and on the other hand, make this so much more capital efficient. Because suddenly, we have the liquidity of IBTC or interBTC, KBTC in DeFi. We have the collateral liquidity being used and made accessible to other protocols in the ecosystem. And last but not least, potentially also the actual Bitcoin that is locked can be used as additional guarantees for lending and borrowing. Other things that we're working on that are coming next are obviously fee sharing models and, as mentioned, these premium features. Maybe premium feature sounds a bit too corporate, but essentially the idea is that you as a user of IBTC, you have insurance. And typically how insurances work is you pay a subscription fee. And a similar model will obviously with time come to this network because you have to somehow reward vaults for putting up that collateral and giving you that insurance. Now our goal is, instead of making users pay and basically have higher fees, our goal is instead to enable users to use their IBTC directly on our Parachain and hence basically take a fee of that and route that to vaults. So instead of just charging, rather build applications and tools that incentivize you, make it interesting for you to use IBTC with our system and basically route the fees back to the actual maintainers, the vaults. And now, and I've been leaking a lot of things here, but last but not least, about 2 weeks ago, there was a Cointelegraph article about Interlay. It was at the same time as we were talking to a lot of potential Bitcoin users at Bitcoin Miami. We found a way, or essentially we published a new protocol that takes us one step closer to our ultimate goal, which is non-custodial BTC DeFi. With Interlay and interBTC today, what you have is decentralized custody secured by insurance. It's the best you can get right now. It's economically trustless, and it's the best guarantee on the market for users. But our goal was always to get to the point where you as a user never give away custody of your Bitcoin. Because this is a requirement for a lot of users, especially users who are very big and very early into Bitcoin. And the interesting part is, if we make this non-custodial, we no longer need insurance, which makes this much more capital efficient. Now, of course, this comes at a cost. It comes at the cost of usability, and it's more complex to use. So what we've done is we found a way how to combine interBTC with things that you see on Ethereum L2s, namely commit chains and some Bitcoin script magic. And this allows you to use essentially a new type of wrapped Bitcoin called LayBTC, which is non-custodial, meaning you never lose custody. The vault can never steal your Bitcoin. The worst thing it can do is it can go offline, and then you can exit the system. So just like with L2s. And then you can use this with selected DeFi applications. Now, the drawback is it's no longer as easily usable as interBTC. interBTC is fully fungible. You can do with it whatever you want on any chain. With LayBTC, you'll have a few selected integrations because we need to custom integrate with specific DeFi protocols. But this is hence targeted to other users. As a DeFi expert, as a DeFi degen, you can use interBTC and you can do whatever you want with it. However, the mainstream, most people who have Bitcoin, they don't know DeFi. They don't really care that much yet. What they want is an easy way to earn on their BTC, and this is exactly what we're trying to build. A few select applications, non-custodial, directly from your wallet with one click. We'll see if it works. We're hoping to ship the first proof of concept by the end of the year. We have released a 20-page technical paper. It was covered by Cointelegraph. You can read about it a bit more if you want to. And I'll end with saying that if we get this to work, we'll put WBTC on the centralized side out of business, because then there's really no reason for you to go centralized. Right? Thanks a lot, and please consider joining the network.